Welcome back. MTG Joe here. Today we are looking at the weekly metagame breakdown for the best decks in Historic Best of 1. We'll look to do best of 3 in the coming days. Right now there was an alchemy drop like 2 days ago, so the meta kind of hasn't shifted. I checked for best of 3. There's only 2,500 games played, so it wasn't a huge sample from Bronze to Mythic, so I want to give it a couple more days just to accumulate a bit more stats. But we're going to look at best of 1. We're getting the data from Untapped.gg, what you see on the screen, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client, aggregates your win rate with other users, gives a whole bunch of cool stats. You could track your games played, stuff like that. If you want to take a look with Untapped, the link is in the video description. I'll also paste and timestamp all these deck lists so you can copy and paste into Arena and play some games of Magic. So we will start with the popularity of the day, just kind of seeing where the metagame is kind of sampling at in terms of what's being played, and then we'll look at the win rates themselves. I will say this week, it seems like best of 1 has been pretty wide open. I've just been messing around like on my iPad since my PC broke earlier in the week with like a Demir Oculus with the new like 3 mana 7/7 demon from Alchemy. You unearth it. I've been winning more than I've been losing. I don't have the tracked rates because I was playing on iPad, but I can share that list if you're interested as well. I wouldn't say it's like tier 1, but certainly it's been a fun deck to play. So taking a look at the popularity, Boros, this is generally going to be a combination because it's kind of the reset. They haven't tagged the underlying deck names, just color, but Boros is usually going to be the Auras deck right now that's been picking up a lot of popularity. 5 colors, usually the Woodlands deck, Mono Green Devotion. Mono Black, we have a Necropotence deck that we'll take a look at, or Necro Dominance, and the Mono White's usually various flavors of life gain that you'll see Platinum. You move it up to Diamond to Mythic, it's usually when you see a drop off. But like I said, still pretty early. Like if we just look today, there's only sub 10,000 games played in the last couple days or so. So before we jump into the deck lists themselves, you'll notice in the top right hand corner, we're just a few hundred subs away from 15,000 subs on the channel, which is crazy. It's free to sub to the channel, helps out in terms of YouTube overlords, and free to support. Likes and comments also go a long way, so appreciate if you can drop those. Enough shilling, let's go. So we have 9,000 games played from Diamond to Mythic rank in the last day, or like the last few days. So this is from the 15th to the 18th when we had the latter. So the new meta with alchemy cards takes place there. Previous meta would be without alchemy cards. So Boros Auras is the highest win rate deck, 79% over 78 games. This deck's picked up a lot of popularity recently, and it's kind of built around 2 new cards, Sheltered by Ghost, which can be a tutorable removal spell that also gives power increase, lifelink, and ward. Light Pause can tutor it up. You also have Shard Mage's Rescue, which is a protection effect that also happens to be an aura with flash speed, so it can kind of play in terms of tricky-ish style, like your opponent goes to attack, you can flash it in, it can be surprise damage, stuff of that nature. Most of these lists play 4 Amped Raptor. Looks like this version's cut 2 for All That Glitters, and I don't think this card's playable. Aki Warpaint. It's just a 2+1 boost. There's better auras you can play. Like I would rather play the white cartouche that gives first strike in another body. In all honesty, I would probably just play more Amped Raptors. Just cascading into more effects is good. Hammerhand, they give like some toolboxy stuff, flying, haste for the turn, vigilance, all ways to kind of play around that. But these are your enchantress cards that get bigger or have like 2 durable effects. Esper Sentinel draws you cards, and Giver of Runes is a protection effect. Then go to Rakdos Leyline. It's found its way into this format. 78%. So this is a fairly budgety version of the deck, I would say. You can definitely update the mana base. So you can do stuff like Den of the Bugbear. You can do Barbarian. I think it's Barbarian Rings. It's the Threshold land. You can do the Channel land. So there's ways you could kind of improve the mana base just to get some utility out of it. But for the deck, get Leyline into play. You have a bunch of these. When they die, it deals extra damage. So you have Scamp, Fireblade Charger, Heartfire Hero, single copy of Swiss Spear in here. You also have Thud and Calisel Sword. So 6 fling effects. Now, notably with the fling effects, because it has multiple targets, it doesn't double with Leyline. But you have Infuriate, Monstrous Rage, Titan Strength, and Turn Inside Out. Just a bunch of ways to throw huge amounts of power and then fling them at your opponent's face through doubling up with the ley line. I then go to Mardu Sacrifice. So this is a pretty stock list, 77%. So this deck here, it's tried and true bombardment style strategy. So this deck here is looking with the Johnnies to like fling Johnny's token, flip it, just deal huge amounts of damage. You have lines with Cthulhian Nightmare that you can keep reanimating like Marionette Apprentice or Johnny's to keep getting value. Trap Finders and Unlucky Witness are your 1-mana sack fodder that provide card advantage. Village Rites and Deadly Disputes are ways you can sack them for card draw. The Guide of Souls helps you generate energy and some life gain to offset kind of a painful mana base in this case. And then Fatal Push as removal. Claim the Firstborn to steal your opponent's stuff. It could be fairly reasonable against the Auras deck. Steal their big thing, attack them, and then fling it at them if they don't have the protection. Blurrus Companion here. Then go to 4-color Ritual combo. So this one is 73%. So there is an infinite combo between Samwise Gamgee, Cauldron Familiar, and then some sort of sack outlet. So either Bartholomew or Goblin Bombardment. So if you have a food in play, you sack the Cauldron Familiar, and then it comes back with the food. When it comes back into play, it creates a food with Samwise, and you create an infinite loop, sacking them to drain them out with the Familiar or pinging them to death with the Goblin Bombardment. Same kind of with the Sacrifice package. You have your card advantage engines, like the Trap Finder, Witness, and Amtraptor. You have a Johnny's, and then you also have Birthing Ritual that can help you sack and dig into combo pieces. Blurrus Companion here. Then we got a cool one. So this is a Lauren combo in Historic, 71% Primal Prayers. So Primal Prayers basically lets you cheat into play stuff. So you can cast creatures without paying their mana cost if they're 3 or less by paying 1 energy instead. So what you're able to do is with something like Greenbelt Rampager, it comes into play, it generates 2 mana, and then if you can't, you return it to its hand. So you do this as like the secondary energy card cast, because you wouldn't have the mana to keep it in play, and then you just keep bouncing it back to hand, and it generates enough energy that it comes into play over and over again. You also have things like Shrieking Drake that can come into play, and then it returns a creature you control to its owner's hand. So you can like bounce it over and over if you have enough energy. You have things like Rogue Refiner that also helps you generate energy to keep kind of the chain going. Saturo draws you cards, Tamioka flip. But what you want to do is try to get into a point where you could keep making creatures come into play over and over, bounce to your hand, and then you ping them to death with Corpse Knight. So that's kind of the combo element of the deck here. Guy's Blessing can shuffle cards back if they kill anything, or if you draw through your deck. A new Alchemy card, Chittering Illuminator, 3 mana. If it's the top card of your library, you may look at it at any time and you cast it, and then as long as the top card of your library is a creature, it's basically one of those effects, play the top card of your library if it's a creature. You just don't always get the view of the top card if it's a non-creature spell. So it's kind of just like an infinite combo that way there. Just keep bouncing, and kind of kill them there. Kind of a cool list to see. Probably very click intensive. We then have Mardu Titan, which is a cool list. So we've seen these decks with Croxa before. Now we also have Flage. So you're playing a bunch of the cancel out ETB creatures. Doorkeeper, Thrall, Hushbringer, Strict Proctor. So this shuts off all your opponent's ETB effects while also making it so Croxa and Flage come into play and they don't have to sacrifice. So you get a 2 mana Croxa, 3 mana Flage, and then you can go to attack. Notably no Arena Glory. That could be something cool that would also see play here, maybe over something like Savai Triumph. Just gives you some nice value there. You can name Giant with Cavern of Souls, so your Titans become uncounterable. A lot of cheap removal in this deck. Some Helix's removal, Liliana. Also, like just discarding extra copies here isn't too disadvantageous, since you can just get them back through escape cost. You then have mono green Elves with the new Tyvar. So Tyvar is another mana sink. So this one's at 69%. Over 69 games, double nice. But Tyvar here, be indestructible if you tap another creature. But for 5 mana, creatures you control get XX, where X is the greatest power of creatures you control. You can pump this multiple times and it scales. This deck can generate a lot of mana through things like Elvish Archdruid, Priest of Titania, just ways to gain a lot of mana that you can pump in. Crater Hoof's another option there. You have Collected Company to find you your pieces. Court of Calling can also be used mana sink to help you find like Crater Hoof or one of your other pieces. Eldrami can cheat into play stuff and also lets you play cards at the top of your library. Sage is like Artifact Enchantment Hate, and then just like cheap elves ramps ahead and kind of goes from there. Cavern on Elf, Nixthos as another mana sink engine there. Then have a pretty stock Izzet Wizards deck, 66%. So we've seen variants trying out ley lines, but this is just kind of very clean 4 of all and then ship it. No Flame of Anor is kind of sketchy. I would definitely suggest having that as a card get included. So I would cut, most of the lists are off Expressive Iteration. Even like Static Discharge is kind of fallen out of favor. You can look at stuff like Shove Aside. So this is a very budgety version. If you're looking to just get started, this might be something to look at, but like Flame of Anor, Shove Aside are cards that do see some play in these lists here. So something just to kind of here as you're building. At the very least, play Flame of Anor. It's a very strong card. It provides you card advantage, can deal 5 damage to like Shieldred. It has applications and artifacts as well. So then we go to another interesting one. So this is the Persist Combo. Actually, this I was getting confused. There's another cool one coming up after this. Persist Combo is a fairly known commodity at this point, but what you want to do is put cards in your graveyard. Gambles, lootings, other Religades, Tigan Scheming. And what you want to do is have a Scholar of the Lost Trove in your graveyard, and then any of these kind of big spells. So ideally what you want is like Breach the Multiverse or Emergent Ultimatum, and then you get to cast it for free. So you reanimate it with Persist or Unburial Rites. You could alternatively just target the spell itself with Mystic's Mastery. And then with the Emergent Ultimatum, you get like Omniscience, Conspiracy Unraveler, Breach. Eventually you just keep kind of free casting spells over and over, and then win with like an extra turn place. This is the one I was mentioning. So 64%, this is Storm Herald combo. Another deck that's looking to put cards into your graveyard, self-milling along the way. And then what you want to do is ideally unearth a Storm Herald. And then when it comes into play, you attach all auras to it. And then it gets haste, you sacrifice the auras to end the turn. But basically you're just a one-shot kill. You have Ancestral Mask, Crystal Carapace, which gives Ward. Epic Proportions gives Trample, and then this is Trample. So just huge bounce of power, haste it out, and then kill your opponent in a one-shot approach. Going from that, just a lot of kind of broken combos today. We have Discover combo. This is a combo that was pretty popular. We got a nerf to Geological Appraiser, so it's 5 mana now. So it's a little bit slower of a combo, but how it works, there's no cards in your deck other than this is when it enters a battlefield. So if you cast it, so notably, so it enters the battlefield of a copy. So this should still trigger the Geological Appraiser. The Geological Appraiser would hit Eldritch Evolution, that hits Trumpeting Carnosaur, which then lets you cascade. So you keep cascading over and over again. You eventually use the Eldritch Evolution to get Doomscar Titan, and that gives haste to your team. So you make a big board out of nowhere and then haste it out there. And then it's just kind of like Grixis control. You have treasure things to get ahead. You have Discovery as a cheap card draw effect, Virtues, removal, Shark Typhoon, be card draw, tokens kind of mixed there. Mana base is a little all over the place. So again, not like super refined. It's putting up reasonable win rates, but you could definitely fix up this mana base. It's a lot of 1-ofs. Bloodfell Caves, not for example. Mono Black, Necro Dominance. So 60% win rate, 90 games. So we have Necropotence, which exiles a card and puts into your hand. Necrodominance would draw a card instead, and then it limits your maximum hand size. So you'd have to pay a life. So this is only at the beginning of your end step. So it's if they destroy it before, you don't get that case. But you basically play it with Shieldred to gain. You basically net life in the end because you'd pay a life, but instead you gain 2 life. And then what you can do Notably with this one here, it's not playing March of Otherworldly Light. That's something you'd want to probably consider here over stuff like Infernal Grasp. The big thing with March is you can put an end step stop, and then on your end step, it allows you to discard the extra cards which you normally have to do to Necro Dominance to play the March of Otherworldly Light instead. So then you can just kind of pitch those free things, pay 1 black mana, gain a bunch of life, and then it allows you to draw more. Path to Peril is a sweeper. You'll notice like the Light Climb Pathway as a way to hit white mana here. You could probably play like Godless Shrine. It's just always has black that way there. Infernal Grasp probably the weaker of these removals. Like I said, switch this to March of Otherworldly Light. But otherwise, it's a mono black kind of mid-rangey control deck. You're winning with Shellys, Graveyard Trespassers, and just kind of overrunning them with card advantage. Killing whatever they have, discard, surgical can be used to pick apart various combo pieces. You have some utility lines, Hive, Castle Lockwayne also in there. And then lastly, so whatever reason, whenever I try to pull up mono green devotion, it always gives me an error. But there's a few lists that were mono green that had like a couple percentage points higher, but to be honest, they were configured fairly poorly, I think. Just like odd, like a one of Yorvo, just like weird cards being. So this is how a lot of the configurations are right now. It's basically mono green with splash for Elish Norn that doubles up your ETB, shuts off your opponent's ETBs. Things like Sharpshooter main is flexible to destroy artifacts and enchantments. For the deck, you want to ramp ahead. A lot of 1-mana accelerants. This can generate 4 mana on its own. Kiora, tap and tap Nykthos, chaining together like Cavalier Thorn, Storm the Festivals for more Nykthos. Karn then lets you do a Karn board. Bunch of situational cards here. Graveyard Hate. You can build a big enough board, give them all haste for the turn. Blow up lands, tax your opponent, blow up individual threats. Edict effects really good against like the Auras deck, and then Flute for action. The Yellowcaster Trailblazer and Kiora both provide you ongoing card advantage. That's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you've been playing. And if you're interested in the Oculus deck, let me know. I just got to paste it. I haven't played any games on my PC with it, so I don't have it on my Untapped profile right now. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one. Stay safe.